the academic integrity workshop. So yesterday we took a bit of a future and storytelling approach, but the title was Academic Integrity in 2030, and we had two stories, and we invited people to contribute, and words like choice in assessment came up quite strongly, but also compassion and naivety. And by compassion, we just mean compassion actually for everybody involved in the assessment, and naivety in the sense that maybe we just need to find ways of having a fresh look at what we do in assessment, rather than what I suspect happens a lot when people just take what is and then make small changes. Certainly, this webinar series wanted just to see what happens if we approach it completely differently, and we're doing this also today with a session on trust and remote assessment. And Henrietta Carbonell will be leading us through that. And the only thing I want to say, it's not just that we're talking about new concepts or maybe unusual concepts like trust, within assessment. And we're also really going new ways in trying to be interactive, working across Europe in ways that technology enables us to do. So Henrietta will lead us through an activity, and it's speculative design thinking, and she'll introduce that, and we'll be all working together on the whiteboard, blueboard rather, Miro, and I'm hugely excited to see what we can achieve. So I'm going to pass on now to Henrietta.
Thank you for the introduction. So I'm Henrietta Carbonell from Unidistance Suisse, online university, the online university of Switzerland. And I'll start with a short presentation, very short, and then we'll move on to design thinking process around assessment of the future. Don't hesitate to interrupt me. If you want, I might not see you while I'm presenting. I've got slides, so just speak up, say that I have a question, and I'll hear you, or point it out to me if anyone else sees it. I'll share my screen. So the topic was academic integrity is a matter of trust, not a tick box exercise. Integrity is fundamental. Academic integrity is very important because we don't want our students cheating on their work, plagiarizing, and then being caught out on it years later. In the case of numerous cases in Germany recently, for instance, or even worse, perhaps cheating on their data and their analysis and putting people's health and life at risk. So it's very important. It's fundamental that that our students know what academic integrity means and use it. And usually the to-go solution has been online proctoring. However, it's far from an ideal solution. There are many biases in the algorithms. They don't recognize certain people. If you're white, if you're black female, in 50% of the cases, it will say, sorry, there's no one there, can't see you, for example, or you might have health issues or family that you have to look after during tests, and you'll be flagged, putting you at a disadvantage. Also in education, the means and ends are constitutively related. That means that how you teach is just as important as what you teach, and the two are related. You're teaching all the time in the way you're teaching and the content you're teaching. And do we really want our students to learn to accept a surveillance society? Do we want them to go out and think that as an employee, it's normal to be surveyed in your work all the time, and as a manager later they might impose this surveillance on people working for them? Or should we be teaching them to take a critical approach to surveillance society? The last point about online proctoring is the fact that, at least in Bergmans and the group research, they didn't find, Proctorio didn't highlight any of the people who were cheating. They didn't catch out to any of them, and they were saying it's more of a has more of a placebo effect than catching people cheating. So the way we're using it in general in higher ed is, okay, tick box, we've checked the issue of academic integrity, although it hasn't been properly checked. We've done something, so we've done it. We can ignore it now, which doesn't really work. Moreover, we're starting from a standpoint of mistrust. If you're putting in place online proctoring or plagiarism detection systematically, it means you do not trust your students. And trust is central to education. It's not only central to education, actually, it's central to the society as a whole. We need trust in our everyday life. We couldn't work together without trust. You can't control everything. If you don't have trust, without trust, you don't have agency or autonomy. You'd have to control everyone. Also, trust implies an element of risk. You can't, there's no trust if you're 100% sure of something's going to happen. Trust implies that there's an element of risk, that they might be cheating, something might go wrong, but you still have to have this trust. All the more so as students, the imbalance of power between students and teachers is very big. So trust is even more important in the case of education. And as you see here, it's a multi-layered issue. So you have students who need to trust the institutions and the government that the degree they're getting is valuable, which means that they want proper tests. They want tests where people aren't cheating, whatever cheating might mean. But they also want to be able to trust their teachers and their peers. They need trust because to interact, you have to take risks. To write an essay, you need to take risks. You need to be open to feedback. So trust is central to student-teacher relationship. They also need to trust the technology. So you see that there's this social aspects, material aspects, technological aspects, who all come in here and intertwine to create a very complex problem. And because it's a complex problem, we can't treat it as a normal, okay, this happens, so this happens. We can't carry out traditional research. We need to look at a different form of research. And this is what I'd like to move towards today. So basically, we have a big work site in front of us. It's only become bigger with the release of ChatGPT at the beginning of this month, with AI giving basically our students all the answers, not necessarily correct ones, but very well written ones. So what could trustworthy remote exams look like in the distance university of the future? And we'll take a speculative approach to do this. So looking at what are the possibles, not looking at what the tech industry wants us to do, what society or the economy is telling us we should do, but looking really at what are all the possibilities, what do we as educators want to do? So open the field of possibles. Take a critical approach to our suggestions. Perhaps there's good sides and there might be negative sides we haven't considered. So take a critical approach to these and a values-based approach in general. If you want to learn more about speculative design approaches, Jen Ross has a new book. It says out in 2023, but it's already out on digital futures for learning. And I've worked a lot with the book by Law, After Method Social Science Research, which is particularly good. So how will we work? We'll be doing a speculative design thinking approach, looking at it's existed for a long time, and Stanford put a design school created this specific, the names and this specific system, but it's not, they didn't invent it. So we'll start with empathize, define, then ideate, prototype, and test. But I'll take you through these step by step. The presentation is available on the Miro we're going to share soon, and there's a lot of resources in the bibliography at the end here. So that was my presentation to show that we needed trust and we, yes. Now I need to get that out of the way there, sorry. So trust is very important. Trust that the exams are done as they should be done, that we know who did the work, and trust in our students. So no strong proctoring, no strong control, but ensuring both sides. And this is definitely a complex problem, which I'd like us to work on together. Have you had access to the Miro yet? I haven't seen. Jean-Michel, have you been able to share? I can't see. Yeah.
It's in the chat
Thank
now.
you.
Yep.
So in the chat, there's the link to the Miro board. You just have to click on it and it will take you there. You don't have to sign up or anything. Is everyone in the Miro board?
We are 9, 10, 11.
I'll share my, so you can work on it together without having to share it. If some people don't have access to it, it might be useful to share. Yes? Does someone have a question?
There's just 2 people just entering, so maybe for them we need to shortly repeat what we're doing, Henrietta.
Okay.
Then
are they in?
So yeah, they're not in. So maybe for those who just joined, Henrietta is just a short introduction on academic integrity. We'd like now to work on a Miro, and the Miro is just in the on the Miro board. The Miro is just in the chat, so you can just open the chat and find the link there.
Sorry, could you reshare on the chat, because I've only just rejoined?
Yeah.
Apologies.
That's in there now. I think you should be able to see it. James, thanks.
So you should be able to see, you arrived in the left-hand corner. This is the overall picture. We won't be using all of it. I wasn't sure how many people would be here, so we'll be using 2 paths. This is the introduction. Here you'll be able to find the slides. And just to practice, I suggest you come to the space who's in the room. I'll bring you here. And if you double click or sometimes triple click on one of the post-its, you can add your name and where you're from, for instance, or your role, whatever you feel like sharing with us. Cardinal. We've got people from Berlin, London. Stefan, where are you based?
I'm in Maastricht, the Netherlands.
Okay.
Yeah. -6 today. This morning on the bike, so it's cold. Yeah.
Yes, very cold. Exciting. Someone, Cynthia from Argentina, and more from Ireland, Switzerland. Okay. Are you all familiar with Miro, or do you need a bit of an explanation?
No, completely confused by it.
Okay. Were you able to put your name, James? Did you get to the right place?
I think I am in the room, because it says who's in the room in front of me.
Okay.
Sticky note from the toolbar. What?
I'll bring you.
You can click on one of the sticky notes and enter your name. Should be able to do that. Yeah. For me, it's working.
From Berlin. Yes, yeah. James. Done.
Okay.
Yeah,
great.
That is
perfect. So to write on sticky notes, I put sticky notes everywhere. To write on sticky notes, it's pretty easy. Otherwise, if you don't have enough sticky notes, if you have lots more ideas, you can go to the left-hand side, click on this one. Do you see me where I'm clicking? On the left-hand side of the board, and then you can choose a sticky note, just click on it, click again where you want to put it, and write something.
And for how do you call it, for moving around the board, you have to use the arrows, right? Is that correct? Or...
You can use the arrows, or you can go to the arrow at the top, click on it. Your hand will become a hand, and then you can move and left click, and you can move around. To scroll back and forth, either to go in and out, you can either use the plus minus at the bottom, or you can scroll with the rolling thing in the middle of the mouse. I don't know what it's called.
All right. Yeah.
That's the one I use. And then when you want to move away, if you want to write something, you have to click again on the arrow to move away. So the presentation, there's a brief introduction here. My slides are here. You can download them. The speculative design approach is here, but we're going to start in the middle now. If you all want to come in the middle, I can pull you here, though. I'll force you to join me here. There. And so before we start on the design approach, I'd like you to think about what assessments, what are the characteristics of quality assessment, what should they include, and the challenges of e-assessment today. What are the challenges in for universities or whatever institution you're working at today? So if you take the Post-its and just fill in, if they're too small, you scroll into it and they'll become bigger. The writing adjusts, so it's pretty easy. Just start typing and it will adjust automatically. So quality assessments, what do you want for quality? What is important? And what are the challenges today? If you want to start writing on these. Angela, you said it was very difficult. What's difficult?
Sorry?
You wrote, Angela, you wrote that it was very difficult. What are you finding difficult?
No, I'm used to this thing, but I can't put the sticky notes in the figure, you know, where everybody's putting his sticky notes, but I don't know.
Just
maybe
there's sticky notes already there. Can you double click on them and write on it?
I tried, but it did. I couldn't.
Okay, but put your notes in the chat, and I'll copy them onto the sticky notes for you.
There's been some questions in the chat about sharing of slides. I think we'll try to gather all the results, including a Miro board first, including the slide and the Miro board and the results from yesterday, and then share it with all the participants. So in any case, if you've signed up on Eventbrite for the event, you'll get all the information. Not sure if we can still do it today, but in any case, we'll try to send it to you as quickly as possible.
We'll leave the board open, and you can download the PDF as well. The slides of the presentation are in the PDF at the beginning.
Yeah, nice.
I've copied Angela's posts as well. I wasn't too sure about visitor, master student, academic. That's your that's you. Okay. Great. So there's already quite a lot of information, real life, meaningful. I try and put them together, meaningful, clear instructions, challenging, caters to neurodiversity. That was a discussion I was having with our teachers yesterday, sort of what, who do you let into higher education because they can do what's expected, something to feel proud of, a range of learning outcomes tested, elements of choice, right level of challenge for the learner, personalized, so that might go with an element of choice. The aim of the assessment as well, express themselves, apply learning, feedback. I think I saw it a number of times, feedback. I think that's very important as well. It's not the topic of today. I found it very difficult to move away from feedback. Careful, we're trying to do the assessment side. We'll leave the feedback side for another event, but not because it's not important, because we have to focus on something. On the challenges, in Cyprus and Greece, there are specific rules for e-assessments. They have to be proctored, and the final has to be in person. You're not the only people. I think Portugal is the same. So rules and regulations are a problem. We're not there yet. Possibility of impersonation, possibility of cheating, I've seen a number of times. Unreliable proctoring, sort of, it's not, sometimes it's forced on you and it doesn't really work. Plagiarism, collaboration between students, timing and time zones if you want everyone to do it at the same time. Fraud, impersonation, how do you use the newest technologies? ChatGPT is a big issue with everyone at the moment. What it's very difficult to know that the AI has written it. Something to feel proud of. The other side, that was positive. Contact cheating, ghostwriting, it's not because they've been made illegal that it's not happening. So a lot of elements there. Positive elements that we want in our tests and negative elements that we don't want. And so what we're going to do now is move to the design thinking process. We'll be starting off with empathize and define. Empathize means it's to understand what the problem is. And we're going to take, so in groups, we'll put you into two groups, and in each group we'll ask you to choose a type of exam. Take the essay. You can take low skill. So we need to check that they know this vocabulary. So low level skills, high level skills, whichever exam, a typical exam you'd like to work on. So here's you have to write your challenge in the this white one. You just double click on it and write. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. How do I get out? And given that the exams are remote and must foster trust. So remember, we have trust and remote. Those are two important things that are given. Then you choose your challenge, and then take the point of view of the student. This student, I've given a model of student. It's Julia. She's a part-time student in an online university. She works 80%. She has 2 kids, so she's very busy in life, but she's passionate about her studies and really wants to learn. and thinking about her, what does Julia's ideal assessment look like? What would she like as an assessment? What would, if you were her, what would you like? Think about all the negative sides of assessment, and would be the positive? What would be the perfect assessment for you? That's the first part. And then after about 5 minutes, so for 5 minutes, empathize, discuss what she'd like and note it on these Post-its. And afterwards, after about 5 minutes, write down the definition. Remote essays, for instance, need to be fun because that motivates students, for instance. So depending on what your discussion has brought up from Julia, define exactly the problem you're facing, and afterwards we'll look for solutions for that. But this, at the moment, we're trying to understand what the problem is. So we've seen a whole lot of challenges from our point of view. Here we want you to look from the student's point of view, and not forgetting trust and remote. There are different paths. There's the group 1 should go on the path 1. If you see it here, there's path 1 here. And the group 2 should go on path 2, and then we'll know exactly where you are. If some people are having problems like Angela, if you can still not access it, in a group, if someone can share their screen, then the other people can see what's happening, and you can someone can write for you. So don't hesitate to ask for other people to write for you. Okay. Okay.
Just for clarity, yeah, exactly. I will put everybody in 2 groups now, group 1 and 2. I'll try to call them 1 and 2 as well. Let me see.
It should be automatic.
And we're seeing we're 13 people. So yeah, let's say that's 6 and 7 people then in both rooms. So you get a message on Zoom saying like, you're going to be switched to a breakout room. Are you fine with that, I think? And then you should click yes. And the moment we're done after 5 minutes, that's true, right, Henrietta? 5 minutes, and then I move everybody back to the
10 minutes.
Sorry,
so
10 minutes.
It's 10 minutes, and I'll send you a message in the room after 5 minutes.
Good.
So I'm staying here. I'll be
Yeah.
staying in the main room. If there's any questions, don't hesitate to ask, but you'll have lots of and to introduce yourselves. We didn't do that as a group. Make sure you take a bit of time to introduce yourselves. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to create them now.
So Henrietta, have you been spying on our work here?
Yes. It's amazing to see how it develops and the amount of work you've done in such a small time. I mean, the middle one is bursting, and the other ones you've really lots of ideas, lots of points written out. Well done. So
we had a lot of trouble in our group to actually come up with a definition that's and maybe not because we didn't have one, but maybe because of the way the question was phrased there, especially in brackets, the type of exam maybe was a bit more talking more in general about assessment rather than exam, or maybe somebody else can explain it better than I do. But let's say we have an excuse for not coming up with a definition there, but
okay, but you did write, I see Klaus-Dieter wrote, remote exams need to be flexible because they need to cater for all kinds of students and locations and circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's for their group. Yeah, Klaus-Dieter.
Yeah. Oh, you're the other group, sorry.
I'm the other group, yeah.
Okay, yeah, you added, I thought I saw the Post-its, but I hadn't seen that you hadn't yet been able to fill them in. Perhaps take a minute to define what the problem is, which specific problem you're dealing with before you move on to the next point. So the next point is 1B and 2B, if you can see it. Yeah, it's nice to see the people moving towards. At the beginning, it's a bit unsure, and then all of a sudden, everyone's moving to the right place at the right time. Oh, my thing is the thing. So the next point is to ideate. This is the fun part. No limits, just as many ideas as you can. Don't think of, even if it sounds ridiculous, it might lead to something, it might not be ridiculous in the end, and it might lead to something else that's interesting. So as many radical and creative solutions as possible to create an amazing assessment for Julia. So keep Julia in mind, and to foster trust and quality examination. These can be, you can take different levels. You could take the course level. I think that might be what most of you have done already, or you could think of the institutional level or faculty level as well, whichever works best for your problem. And there are no technological constraints. It means we're in the future, we're in 2020, 2030, everything's possible, no financial constraints and no teacher time constraints. Teacher can spend all their lives next to one student if necessary. So really, what would be the best option possible? First, work, we'll send you back into the groups. First, work alone. Add about 5 ideas, and then you can add what are they called? Thumbs up. Where are they gone? On the left-hand side, I've lost them. They've changed everything since last time, and I can't find anything now. Stickies and emojis there. You can find stickies and emojis, and you can put a thumbs up to ideas you like. You can add to them. You can copy paste. You can put a question if you're not quite sure about that idea, and add to the ideas. Look at what other people. So first work alone, and then look at what other people have done, and have fun. Enjoy it. Okay.
Should we have a definition before we can move on to the next part, or is it okay without one sentence definition?
If you feel okay with that you know what the problem is, move on. If you're not too sure, you might want to spend a minute or two.
All right, sure.
Doing that.
Yeah.
How do I send you off? I've lost my there.
I think the problem, by the way, was that we were confused about whether we were looking at assessment or only at exams. That was the confusion there seemed to be.
You can choose. Your choice.
Okay.
If that helps. Okay, I'll open the rooms and see you in 10 minutes. Welcome back. Welcome. It's always nice when no one wants to come back. Everyone waits until they're checked out before coming back, which is a good sign. Looks like you had lots of things to write, and it looks like it's going to be a tough one for the next step, prototyping. Because you need to, next you'll have to choose one of the examples. So there were really, the variety was enormous. You had one from assessment on the go, holograms, more visual, like text-based, no assessment, students define their own learning objectives, peer assessment, open everything, books, IT, AI, everything you might want. Students decide, peer review, etc. So lots of possibilities. So the next step, if you go along the line to 1 and 3B, you'll see it's time to prototype. I've put a few post-its in there. I wasn't thinking. Sorry. You can use the post-its if you feel like it, but you can also use a PowerPoint presentation. You can use just text and write something out. You can make them bigger. So the idea of a prototype is to choose one of the ideas, and you might be able to choose 2 or 3 ideas and combine them to make something more interesting. That's also a possibility. So to choose 1 or 2 possibilities and develop the ideal assessment. So one ideal assessment, what would it look like? You can choose a specific one, or you can stay still quite general. The idea is to present something that we could use in our universities in the future. You can write a story, you can write instructions, you can create a collage, you can draw a picture, and then take a picture of it. It's a screenshot, and you can glue it, stick it in the middle of the prototype one, or just use the post-its. You can add arrows and things like that from the bar on the left-hand side. So any questions about that? How's it going? Okay, you're ready for the last sprint. This is the last one, and after that, we'll be presenting them. Okay. Anything else? No? I'll open the rooms and you can go back to the 2C, 1C prototypes. And we've got someone new in the room. I'm I'll put you in a room afterwards, Amanda. Hope you're not too exhausted. It was pretty fast, the exercise. So I see both of you, both groups have managed to create a prototype, and we've got 2 visitors, Amanda and Linda, who just arrived. So we've got people who you can present your work to, as well as the different groups. I suggest, hi Linda. I suggest I share my screen and ask a group. I'm on group number 1, I think. So if group number 1 could, someone could explain what your prototype is, what would be this ideal assessment that ensures trust, that's remote, and that Julia will enjoy.
Who wants to go? Shall I?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, okay. So I've pulled together quite a few of our suggestions into one summary, and it's that we have an overarching learning system. Oh, it's gone. Sorry, there we go. It involves a lot of AI, which will monitor students' performance, evaluate students' performance using different kinds of tools. We thought we'd like to involve a variety of teaching methods, all sorts of different ways of learning and different ways of teaching, so that the process isn't just about absorbing information, but also about learning about how the student learns, and that's going to feed into how the student might be assessed, the best way of assessing the student. So we've talked about Zoom collaborations, lectures and that sort of thing. So students find out about their way of learning, choice of tools they want to use for their assessments. We thought that there needed to be a bit of a limit to the choice, because we wanted to make sure there was proportionate challenges as well, that students are encouraged to try new things and try things that they may find personally more challenging. That the AI is involved in identifying weaknesses and strengths and helping students to balance those things out, but that there has to be a final common goal at the end of the studies that all the students are working towards. The teachers will be involved in, because it's important obviously to have a very human element, and also involve other students as well, so the students are working collaborative and the teachers become coaches, mentors. The AI and the humans interaction, they work together. Dialogical learning and assessment. There's also an element of AI gets to know the student and can also verify identity. So there's that the idea about proctoring and making sure that it's the student's own work. Okay. I don't know if anybody wants to add anything. All right, thank you.
Perfect.
It's amazing. Thank you. Does anyone also, what do you like about this solution? What do you think would be positive, and what might it create that's not so positive? Are there any side effects we haven't thought of that might not be exactly what we're looking for?
I think you reach a broader broader students, more students, but it gets a lot of how do you call it, artificial intelligence in it. So it's a little how do you call it, cold system, unprofessional. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit tired, but the interaction is nearly only through computer science and not human.
Yeah, we are. I think we're considering AI as being totally benign and always a positive thing, which I'm not sure we should. But I think there's an element that it's important that we make sure there's lots of space for human interaction, and therefore possibly the teacher becomes more of a coach and a mentor rather than just delivering the knowledge, which takes a lot of time at the moment. the knowledge is available to the student, and there's mentoring, coaching, discussion that the teachers are involved with.
So there's an element of AI and teachers collaborating together to help the student towards their own goals, I think, in a way.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Right.
And I mean, it could just look. We only had 10 minutes. Give us 20, and then we'll solve it. But I've just as you've been talking, you know, like you get Facebook everywhere. Algorithms push stuff to you, yeah, and we don't always want that. You know, that can be really, really tricky. But if somebody pushed to me articles, you know, like some of the networks do already, push articles that have been published in my area, or alert me to events in a much more targeted way, and I don't have to look for through each of the email whether there's something suitable for me. You know, there could be like a real benefit. This could be then on a per student basis, based on what they've studied, based on what they're interested, based on the kind of assignments they've written. There's a lot of potential there.
Yeah, I like the idea of taking the AI as a partner rather than as the enemy or the replacement. It's a more interesting approach, a different. Great, thank you. Well, we might come back to that when after discussing the other one, but I'd like to give time for the other group. That's not what I wanted to do. Okay.
While you're finding your way, Henrietta, can I just ask the team? I put a question in the chat about excuse me, students as partners in terms of creating the assessment criteria, or would there be fixed assessment criteria for the last project, the last group?
We didn't discuss it. I'm a great fan of co-creation, and potentially, you know, if we have a high level learning outcome for a student to get their the bachelor or master's, the ones that are below that level, they could be student defined. I mean, we even had we discussed earlier that students could design their own assessment. And you know, maybe you can't do that so easy operationally, but why not? You know, if they choose, if they want to write a poem, so they do that, yeah. Or if they want to do some programming or something within the field of what they're studying, why not? Yeah, produce an app or so. Yeah.
Thank you.
I think that's something that's come up a few times, to trying to diversify the type of evaluation, the type of way we're sharing knowledge is something definitely for the future. So group 2, I see people are still working on it. Who would like to present your prototype?
Yeah, I can maybe start, but maybe others can add to it. We're not going to do like a formal assessment at all. The student decides their grade and pass, fail, or if they failed or passed. But there will be some completely flexible talks with an independent examiner at the end. But we didn't define if this has to be within a year or within 2 years. And there's a few, some more description, and we ended with a few discussions. I don't know, I mean, was there, for instance, I don't know if you would like to add anything to discussions, or any of the others that were in the group. I don't know if they're still here. Yeah, that is, I mean.
Yeah, okay. I'd add something. We talked about assessment forms to build up trust. So we would give our students the freedom to choose in collaboration with their examiner or person who guides them through their own journey of gaining knowledge, to define their learning objectives, to define what they wanted to achieve, And so no assessment is a really fine way to build up a system in which trust in oneself and in the examination through or the feedback through the examiner is a vital part. Sorry for my English, it's a bit rusty. I will try to express myself better. So defining the portfolio of the work is done in cooperation, learning objectives provided by the instructor examiner. And so we have a time flexible process of consulting and feedback. And in the end, a discussion on eye level as a talk about between experts with a compassionate examiner. That would be a complete different setting as an AI-based Humboldtian dystopia. So this is what we would go for in future, taking students serious in their life circumstances and seeking true knowledge gains and in their endeavors. Yeah, I think that's it, and basically, thanks.
Thank you. So basically, they don't have there's no assessment, but they do have a portfolio. There's work they're doing, and the learning objectives are set by the instructor or possibly in negotiation.
Yeah, and an expert discussion in the end.
Yeah. Nice. Any downsides to this model anyone sees?
I would I totally get it, Armin. This is thing that I've studied in Germany, so I kind of feel like I had a lot of that already. In the system where we are in the UK, that we need to have what's called a safety net, where students just get lost in the study, don't progress as much, so that they can turn to people. That's easy, but also that somebody spots when a student is in trouble, and we help them. And this could well be Julia, who just has a crisis, the children or so, and needs some help at a particular time, and is perfectly fine to do it any other. So we need some kind of support there for the student.
Right. As a student, I also found that I entered a master program having my own objectives, and then discovered that there were much more interesting things out there, and I had no idea that all that world existed. And I always wonder how, if I'm the one who decides as a student, whether I won't limit myself to things I know I might, I'll learn on the edge of what I've learned, but I might miss out on a whole world that exists out there. And I wonder whether a fully open model might be a problem because of that. And the other thing is, I didn't particularly like deadlines, but I worked a lot harder at school when I had deadlines than if I wouldn't have deadlines. And I wonder whether sort of flexible deadlines, something that you can change based on your needs, but also having these deadlines does help. Although there was one where it went all lifelong, which was interesting in the ideation. Someone suggested a model where you could just, you'd continue your program all the time. It sounds like a bit like a researcher's life. You write a paper and then you change it and you adapt it and you find something new, etc. So those were my thoughts. Any other comments?
I asked ChatGPT what they thought of Julia, but it was useless. That's the text in yellow there.
Oh, okay, you did.
So they didn't offer any, AI didn't offer any useful solutions. So we have to do it ourselves. But you can, they provided a nice backstory for Julia, but that's it. So.
And did you ask what sort of exam would be best for her? Or?
Yeah, I said like describe Julia in 2030 in an online an online environment with exams. So I'm not sure exactly the query, but that was roughly it. But
Okay.
mostly come up with a lot of background about the kids.
I wonder if we fed it all our ideas from today, whether they come up with a prototype proper and we're all done with.
Maybe.
We should try. We can feed it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for participating in this activity. I think there's a lot of ideas. Some ideas I'd already heard of, some ideas that were new to me, some ways forward to think about what might be possible. And I think it's nice to think in a more positive way about these exams. Sort of both models were very supportive of the student, trying to reduce, well, there didn't seem to be any stress in either model. It was really how to support the student to learn rather than these exams that create a lot of stress on students. So I do hope we can perhaps work further with teachers on meeting these value-based assessments, or creating these value-based assessments. We had little talk, interesting enough, about cheating, and it seems that the issue of cheating disappears a bit if you're letting the student manage its own studies, perhaps. I don't know, did you have discussions in your groups about the issue of cheating?
Our students don't cheat, the ones that we had in mind. But well, I kind of think, you know, you get really excited when you think about completely different ways of assessment. And I wonder, you know, once you have that in place, whether the whole thing about academic integrity becomes much clearer to students. And maybe by just reducing the points where you have formal exams, you just don't create any situation where cheating even is a thing. So who knows? But it certainly didn't come up in our group.
Yeah. So that's interesting, because it really is the big topic at the moment. Okay, well, thank you very much. The Miro board will leave it open for a while so you can have a look at it. We'll be using it to share information afterwards, probably in January. I think that we won't be sharing much between now and Christmas. And I'll leave the last words to Klaus or Stefan.
Well,
Stefan, huh?
Yeah. Well, maybe just one thing, that we'll send out a short, because we had multiple webinar weeks this year, and maybe you only frequented this one, but maybe you joined for the other webinar weeks, and we'd love to hear from you what you thought of it, if you have any suggestions for next year, because we're gonna roughly the same concept again next year of 3 webinar weeks, and I'll send out all the details of this week. I'll collect the slides and maybe the results from yesterday and also today, and I'll send it to everybody who has registered for the Eventbrite event, hopefully by the end of the week, but it can also be a bit later. And there will be that's what I want to say, will be a short evaluation form. So if you have any ideas or suggestions, we're very happy to hear from them. And I hope you enjoyed, and I wish you Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, and lots of luck with the assessment of the students. Klaus, do you want to add anything to that, or
just I mean, all that you said, but I'm just kind of really amazed how we managed to work in a space across Europe, and that's just fantastic. And I think there's
more across the world.
Across the world, absolutely. There's something to be learned from that straight away. Can that not be part of our teaching and assessment as well? So with that thought, you know, have a good festive period, and thanks for coming so late in the year. Look forward to maybe seeing one or the other in the new year in some form. Bye bye.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks everybody.
Thanks for participating.
Thank you.